Hi everyone, this is going to be my first commentary video. I just finished college, so I'll probably spend more time on this YouTube channel. I've been playing this game since the first anniversary, and the return of Bleach has more or less motivated me to work on this YouTube channel. Also, thank you guys for all the support so far, and without further ado, let's get straight into this tier list. Starting off, we have version 1 of Bankai Gin, and this character actually came out in March of 2016. So keep in mind that back in early 2016, we didn't actually have 6-star versions of characters yet until the first anniversary, which didn't happen until the end of the month of July 2016. So what happened was that his 5-star version came out in 2016, but his 6-star version was released a year later in 2017. Afterwards, his resurrection came out 4 years later on March 3rd of 2020. So this character is so ancient that I couldn't even find any footage of him. That's why I'm using clips from Me Apocalypse. Shout out to Me Apocalypse. He does a lot of tier lists. So enough of the history. Let's dive straight into the gameplay. So Bankai Gin's first strong attack is actually very nice with a 1280 length beam on top of the Havoc 40%. The only issue is that his second and third strong attacks are really underwhelming. He also doesn't have any built-in strong attack damage or berserker, making him have a total of 5 skills. So keep in mind that characters that come out nowadays usually have 2 times the amount of skills that he has. Regardless, I really like his design, and I think his first strong attack actually reflects the character really well. Other than how slow each strong attack takes to cast. With that, I am putting version 1 of Bankai Gin in the D tier. This character is just too old to actually be usable. Next, we have version 1 of Hueco Mundo Gin. So this is hands down my favorite character design of him, and that was why I was super glad when he got a remake last year in 2022. In terms of actual stats, skills, and gameplay, he is actually very underwhelming. He only has 6 skills for his resurrection, and they gave him one of the worst links in the game, a poison duration link. He also doesn't have Havoc, which makes no sense in my opinion. This guy has one of the fastest and longest lombok toes in the anime, but because he doesn't have Havoc, this guy is almost never going to actually be able to hit anything in the game. If he does, he's only going to be doing negligible damage because he doesn't have guard break. As a result, I am putting him right in the D tier, right next to version 1 of Bankai Gin. Moving on, we have Captain Gin. Captain Gin is probably my second favorite design of him after the Hueco Mundo version. He has 7 skills with Frenzy +1 and Havoc being his 2 main offensive skills. I still use this character to this day, mostly for one of the Senkaimo stages. I don't really remember which one, but his Soul Reaper Killer makes him very powerful. My biggest complaint with this character is that K-Lab did not give this guy strong attack recharge for his secondary soul trait. They actually gave him poison duration, which, like I mentioned before, with Hueco Mundo Gin, that is just super dumb. I think the reason why they did this is because they were probably afraid that this character was going to be a bit too powerful. He has a lunge first strong attack with a 1500 beam second strong attack and a full screen third strong attack. So in terms of his kit, he is actually very, very well balanced, and because of this, I'm actually going to put him in the B tier. So moving on to another version of Captain Gin, we have his Frenzy version. Now I have no clue what K-Lab was trying to do with this character, since he has a NAD link of 18%, but he has more SP than his attack. So his strong attacks are actually very whack, and his NAD string is very, very clunky and goofy. So when he attacks with his NAD string, he attacks pretty normally in his first few strings, but during his last few attacks, they're just very slow for no reason. So you could get this character for free, and you could kind of tell from the quality of his gameplay that he's a free character. As a result, I'm putting this guy in the D tier. So next we have Cacao Society Gin. So this character is interesting because he's basically a strong attack unit, but he doesn't have Havoc 20%. He is a good link though. He has strong attack recharge 12% with the Resurrect good link, which is damage inflicted at full stamina 16%. So the only issue is that the technique attribute is basically bombarded with good links. So even though he is a good link, there are a bunch of other units and characters that could perform his role as a good link. For example, you could use the Lost Agent Soy Phone as a substitute. There's also 4th Fusion Butterfly Aizen and a bunch of other links. So his strong attacks are also really hindered by the fact that he basically lacks Havoc 20%. Not just that, but his second strong attack is basically a ranged collision strong attack, which is, if you guys know, one of the worst strong attacks you could have in the game. His first strong attack is decent. It's kind of like a lunge, but not really. And his third strong attack is full screen, but it's not really full screen since he doesn't have Havoc, so it could actually miss sometimes. So bearing all those factors in mind, I'm putting this guy in the C tier. Next we have Spirit Society Gin. So this character suffers the same issues as Cacao Society Gin, and I don't really know what it is with K-Lab and them butchering the resurrections of these seasonal Gins, but it is what it is. And so basically this Gin does not have Havoc, and his second strong attack is just terrible. It's a 575 radius AoE heal that inflicts damage with a 30-second cooldown. And his first strong attack is also ranged collision 2. And this character isn't terrible, but it just feels very underwhelming to use, especially since this character was released back in 2018. In my opinion, he is clearly better to use in comparison to version 1 of Hueco Mundo Gin, version 1 of White Day Gin, and Frezi Gin, but I would 100% use Captain Gin over this guy any day. As a result, I'm putting him in the C tier next to Cacao Society Gin. Halloween Gin is next, and this is where we start getting closer to a lot of the more recent units, such as units that start coming out after 2019. This character actually has 8 skills. Like I mentioned before, K-Lab does not enjoy giving Havoc 20% to the seasonal Gins, and you could kind of feel that in his gameplay. His first strong attack is not that good since his range collision actually has very niche uses. For example, it might be good for stages such as Senkaimon, where you're dealing with bosses who can be pushed back, but it's very, very weak in epic grades. It's just very inefficient. His second strong attack is Crawling Vortex, but because this character lacks Havoc, it feels completely lackluster. His third is fine, but not having Havoc kind of sucks since you're never really going to be able to actually have a proper full screen third strong attack that affects every hits, because you could definitely miss with your third strong attack because you don't have Havoc. That being said, his activation speeds for his strong attacks are really fast, making him better than the other seasonal Gins. With that, I'm putting him in the B tier right next to Captain Gin. Now, I actually really like Gin and Izuru because their strong attacks are so aesthetically pleasing to look at. This character was a mid-month unit that came out in 2020, so as a result of that, it doesn't have Havoc, but in terms of overall kit, it is very, very solid. His first strong attack is a basic lunge, the second is a AoE that attacks everything in front of him, and his third strong attack is basically a full screen strong attack. This character is very good, but because it has and big reason for why it's so good is because it has double pillars of Soul Reaper and Hollow, which are two of the most common enemies in the game. This character will be hitting a good truck most of the time because it has double killers. And I genuinely think this character is super underrated just because Redux characters are generally super slept upon. We also have like Soifon and Yaruichi, which aren't that popular. So I think this character is super underrated, and as a result of this, our first A tier unit is going to be Gin and Izu.
今宵もパーティーの始まりや。これは君にあげるな。
Next, we're going back to the seasonals with Party Time Gin, which is also version 2 of White Day Gin, depending on how you look at it. Now, this character's skills are actually very stacked, so he has 9 skills in addition to the 3 innate skills that he has. So, in terms of offensive abilities, he has 40% Berserker on top of Frenzy, Havoc, Sharpshooter, damage to paralyzed enemies, and power attribute Soul Reaper damage to status ailment affected enemies 20%. Jesus Christ, that was a handful to say. So in terms of his kit, he has range collision first strong attack, which is actually very inefficient because he inflicts paralysis in all his strong attacks. Now, I actually use this character for guild quests, and there are so many times where I would paralyze the enemy, but because of the fact that he has range collision on his first strong attack, only about like 50% of his damage actually goes through from his first strong attack, which is obviously an issue because it's a very inefficient strong attack. Now, this is the same issue with his second strong attack since he has a crawling vortex. That being said, I think in terms of general use, he is actually very good for content such as Inheritance Zone and just clearing a lot of mobs. Basically clearing stages with a lot of mobs. He's very good at that. That's pretty much why I'll be putting him in the A tier next to Gin and Izu. Young Gin, Baby Gin, the past Gin, whatever you want to call him, he is a very good character. His main role is that he serves as a farmer. He's a 30% heart droplet link with heart link saw potions +5 as one of his skills. It does kind of suck that he doesn't have Havoc 20% because his skills feel a little bit short in terms of range. That being said, Caleb did a decent job boosting his offensive skills. So they gave him Team/Party Mind attribute character strong attack damage 20% alongside a Berserker of 40% with Frenzy +1. It's nothing crazy like Frenzy +2, but given how he is a pot unit, it's good enough. Now, this is also the first version of him in the game, and I honestly really like his design. And this design originated from the backstory of Gin's decision to follow Aizen and get his revenge on him for what Aizen did to Bankiku. That being said, I am putting him in the S tier because I believe this character is going to stand the test of time given how he is a pop unit. Next, we have my favorite version of Gin, his Hueco Mundo version, also known as his Fierce Battle version. So, I think that this character perfectly encapsulates Gin Ichimaru from the Fake Karakura Town arc. I don't think Caleb could have done a better job with this character design, besides maybe giving him possibly better skills such as a higher bruiser, and possibly maybe even giving him long reach. But other than that, I love this character's gameplay. His nat string is literally him extending his Zanbak toe in a 1500 length beam. And I feel like whenever we think of Gin Ichimaru, we think of this version of him and how he extends his Zanbak toe when he fights. And I feel like this is pretty much what all Gin fans wanted because he obviously belongs in the S tier. And I definitely would put him higher than Young Gin in terms of not just design, but basically in terms of gameplay. Finally, we have the latest Beyond Bankai Gin. Now, I remember Caleb first announced that they were going to be doing a Beyond Bankai Spirits Are Forever With You version of Gin back in the end of the year in 2020. And finally, after 3 years, we finally got him. So this character is arguably one of the best top 5 tech units in the entire game, and rightfully so. So he has Frenzy +2 on top of Link Salt Potions +5 and Super Link Salt Potions +5. You also don't really need to worry about any enemies with Guard Break or any enemies that could hide, since he has Guard Break with hidden enemies as one skill. Now, I'm not going to go through every one of the skills because we all already know how stacked he is. You guys can check his skills out at BBS Simulator. This is one of the best Bleach Brave Soul sites out there. So Caleb even gave him coin drop 70% because they didn't even know what else they could have given him. I mean, ideally they could have given him Marauder, but it is what it is. Now the main reason why this character is so powerful is because of his second strong attack. So he has a moving vortex strong attack, which is very similar to 5th anniversary Byakuya. And if you guys ever used him before, 5th anniversary Byakuya's second strong attack is not balanced. So all of his skills such as Frenzy +2, damage to poison enemies, and increased status ailment chance against speed attribute enemies, on top of that second strong attack, makes this beyond Bankai Gin an absolute powerhouse. So waiting 2 years for this character was definitely well worth the wait. This guy is definitely by far the best skin we've pretty much ever had in the game. As a result, he's definitely first in the S tier. That being said, I do personally like the design for version 2 of Hueco Mundo Gin the most, also known as the First Battle Gin, just because, like I mentioned before, the First Battle version of him perfectly encapsulates who he is as a character, and just the way he fights. Now, I feel like if he actually gave Beyond Bankai Gin pretty much the same nat string as the First Battle one, basically in the way that he could extend his Zombok Toe every single time he uses his nat string, that would have been perfect. Regardless, I still really like the design, and I think this skin is pretty much one of the best farmers in the game, and he's very, very well supplemented with all the good offensive abilities that he has. Now, that's pretty much it for the tier list. Let me know in the comments whether or not you guys like this style of video. Do you guys agree with my tier list? But yeah, that's pretty much it. Take care, everybody. Stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you.